Hello again. This episode kind of follows on from the last one, as we're going to be using a similar technique to make a broken wooden floor. So, the sort of thing that we can use for an old ruin or a haunted house and things like that. And just like always, you can find a link to the PDF file, which contains all these printouts. You can find that down in the description. Okay then, so like the lava tiles, the floor is made in two separate layers. So here's the bottom layer, which features all of the beams and supports, and that texture has been glued to some single corrugated cardboard, as you just saw. However, I have made two different versions of this one, so the one on the left has dirt beneath the beams, if you want to make a building that's on the ground floor and has nothing underneath it, whereas the one on the right can be used for an upper level, or a room with a basement beneath, basically anywhere where there's an open space beneath the floorboards. And speaking of floorboards, for the second layer we're going to glue a similar amount of the floorboard texture to some single corrugated cardboard as well. Now, before I go any further, I do just want to point out that the areas where most of the floorboards end, so that's these areas here, these are all 1 inch apart. So what I like to do is mark a point on the top and bottom of the cardboard that corresponds to the size of the tile that I'm actually making. So in this example, I want a room that's 4 inches wide. And then, because on my own tiles, I'll generally put a 1/2 inch wide wall around all of the edges, I'll then add an extra 1/2 inch to both sides to allow for the thickness of these walls. Then it's just a matter of cutting it to size. Now, each floorboard is also 1/4 of an inch thick, so obviously 4 floorboards equals 1 inch. And if the plan is to make a room that's 4 inches square, then once again I'll need to add an extra 1/2 inch to each side if I'm going to be including the walls. So in this instance, 5 inches in total. So I'll just trim one end to size first, measure out this 5 inch length and cut it to size. Then, once that's done, we can start cutting out some of the floorboards to make the whole thing look a bit more ruinous. And when doing this, I'll generally use the lines between the floorboards as a guide. So that's what you can see me doing here. As I said before, it's very similar to the process that you saw in the last episode. Now, if you like, you can leave some of these floorboards that are sticking out. You can leave them as they are, or you can cut them so that they look a bit more like splintered wood. So, yeah, something like this. And if you find that using a pair of scissors squashes the cardboard together, then you can open it back out again by poking a toothpick inside the corrugation. Anyway, to speed things up a bit, here's one I made earlier. Okay, so if we take one of the bottom pieces, in this example I'll use the one with the dirt floor, all we'll need to do is glue one on top of the other. However, I do just want to quickly point out that if you're a bit like me and you want to make sure that everything aligns perfectly, then it's worth noting that the ends of the floorboards should line up with the centre of these support beams here. And in a similar fashion, the edges of the floorboards should run along the middle of these larger supports. Doing both of these things, it just means that there should be a plank of wood beneath all of the nails, rather than the floorboards looking as though they've been nailed to thin air, if that makes sense. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, next we can apply plenty of glue to the bottom of the floorboards, glue those into place, and put something heavy on top until it dries. Right then, once it has dried, it should look something like this. And then we'll just need to trim the bottom layer to size, which is exactly what I'm doing here. So, there we go. Okay, next it's time to glue on the surrounding walls, so as usual, I'll speed this part up as it's just several minutes of me cutting the wall sections to size and then gluing them around the edges. So here's the last one being glued into place now, and with any luck, this is how it should end up. Now, you can of course call that finished, but if you want to take it a step further, you can glue some more of the floorboard texture to some regular cardboard, and then just cut out a few individual planks of wood, like you can see here. And if you like, you can also cut the ends of some of these to look like they're broken, so something similar to the one that you can see on the right hand side. Anyway, here's a few more that I've made ahead of time. Okay, so personally, I like to place these on top of the tile first, just to get a rough idea of where I want to glue them, and then, once I'm happy with how it all looks, then I'll start to glue those down with the trusty glue stick, as you can see. And there you have it. There's the completed tile. And if I just quickly place another tile next to it, so something like that, you can hopefully see that straight away we have the beginnings of an old deserted building, or a haunted mansion, or anything like that. So yeah, that's how we can make broken wooden floors, and I quite like the way that these have turned out, even if they do take twice as long to make as the regular tiles. Anyway, thanks for watching. Here's the part where I ask you to like and share and all that nonsense that YouTube thrives on, but yeah, that's it for this one, so bye for now.